Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. We just got the Avengers Doomsday Chair Watch trailer video showing some of the characters that are going to be in the movie. It's going to be full of billions of characters. They said they would reveal more later this year. Robert Downey Jr. in the official Marvel count even confirmed that. There are a lot of actors' contracts that they hadn't finished yet, so the ones they did announce were the ones they felt were not spoilery in a really big way, like just a couple big reveals, but they hadn't finished contracts on everybody yet. Based on some of the Marvel post-credit scenes that we've already gotten in some of the previous movies, we actually know how this group of X-Men from the original X-Men movies are coming back, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos, because the movie is starting to look more and more like an Avengers versus X-Men movie, which a lot of us weren't expecting them to do till like the next big Avengers movie after Secret Wars, like during the X-Men era in Marvel Phase 7 when they're doing way more core X-Men movies. You could probably see the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige sitting around the story table with the writers just thinking, like, how do we do this? Like, what's the big enough story that we can do for this? Well, we have time runs out. We have to do a little bit of that because Secret Wars is the big movie that we're building up to. But also, why don't we bring back a bunch of those classic X-Men actors? What are we going to do with them in the movie? Like, what will we actually have their plot be? Why don't we just have them go up against our main MCU Avengers? There have been people making fan trailers of this for like the last 10 years. Avengers vs. X-Men in live action. Who would actually win this fight? Kevin Feige already teased that eventually all these different teams will come together to fight Doctor Doom during Avengers Doomsday. The funny thing about that, based on who's on those teams, like if everybody has access to all the core characters that they would normally have in their comics, there's actually a pretty clear answer to who would win that fight. Most of the most powerful characters in Marvel Comics come from the X-Men comics. There's a reason why they created the term Omega level. But a lot of you noticed that there were only some of the classic X-Men actors that they introduced in the Chair Watch, like some of the real big ones, but there were a couple really big absent ones too. For example, we didn't see Jean Grey Phoenix's chair, we didn't see Storm, we didn't see Rogue, we didn't see Iceman, who's another Omega level mutant, or Colossus, or even Kitty Pryde. There are a lot of people in those classic Bryan Singer era X-Men movies that just did not appear.
Is everything all right?
Halle Berry even responded to people during a recent interview saying that she's not going to be in the movie. Now, 100% I do not believe her, but it is possible that they're still working on her contract and they just haven't locked that down yet. Like, they just haven't sent enough money in the mail yet. Or they're just saving her for Secret Wars. Because, for example, we have all the first-class era X-Men actors like James McAvoy, Professor X, Michael Fassbender, Magneto, that we probably won't see until Secret Wars. Like, they just want to focus on one particular group of X-Men, starting with the classic era X-Men. I know there are a lot of questions about what's going on with Deadpool, Wolverine, X-23, Channing Tatum's Gambit, who we did see during Chair Watch, but like Deadpool, Wolverine, X-23 did not appear during that, but we know that they're going to appear in the movie in some way. We will address that because I don't think that Deadpool, Wolverine, and X-23 are coming from the same X-Men universe that these other Chair Watch X-Men are actually coming from. So a lot of you asking, where do these X-Men come from, which universe, and how do they wind up in the movie, what are they actually doing during the movie, like what's the whole point, why do we get to our Avengers vs. X-Men? And a lot of it goes all back to that Marvel's movie post-credit scene. So a lot of people did not see the movie based on the box office, like one of the lowest box offices of any Marvel movie. But the whole point of that movie was to show you what it looks like when an incursion is actually going down, and that's really like the driving force of this whole era of the MCU, the multiverse saga, are the incursions slowly destroying each of the universes, setting up our Secret Wars down the road. An incursion happens when one universe collides with another, destroying one or both of them in a lot of cases. Thank you, John Krasinski, Reed Richards, for explaining that, R.I.P. During that movie, they used both of Miss Marvel's bangles and retconned that or explained that those were meant to be the quantum bands of Quasar combined with the idea of the Kree negabands, basically like rolling all those concepts from the comics into one. At the end of that movie, Dar-Ben, the villain, uses both of the bangles and accidentally cracks a hole in the universe in one of the jump points to the other X-Men universe, and an incursion starts to happen until Monica Rambeau uses her powers to basically close the gap, but she winds up stuck on the other side of the gap in the other X-Men universe. She's woken up by another version of Kelsey Grammer's Beast that looks different from the original X-Men movie version of Beast. Now they're using motion capture like they used for the Hulk instead of using practical effects like they did with his original version of Beast in X-Men The Last Stand. And a version of her mother, who in that X-Men universe became Captain Marvel instead of Carol Danvers, and has both of that universe's versions of the bangles, and she's using the name Binary instead of Captain Marvel, just to differentiate her character. Her costume is also designed to look more like the Binary version of Captain Marvel's costume too. But the idea is that basically Monica Rambeau has crashed into an X-Men universe with a fully functional X-Men team because Beast mentions that the Professor X, was talking to him about what was going on. The medical wing looks a little bit different from the original X-Men movie, so it just feels like a completely different X-Men universe. But the idea is that it is a working X-Men team who are alive in this part of the timeline in their universe. Based on the people they revealed during Chair Watch, I think this is the universe where all these chairs of X-Men come from. And during Avengers Doomsday, the way that they wind up in the MCU is Monica Rambeau trying to eventually get back to the MCU and the MCU people trying to rescue her on their side of things, but also because we know they're adapting some plot points from Time Runs Out, and the incursions are a big part of that. There's an incursion that probably winds up happening, and we start to see both of those universes slowly collide, where Monica Rambeau gets her chance to jump back to the MCU, but you also have the idea that both of the universes might be destroyed unless they destroy one of the other universes, which is another big plot point from Time Runs Out. And that's how you wind up with your Avengers versus X-Men fight during the movie, like the core plot of the film. The brand new Avengers team that winds up forming, fighting this X-Men team from this other Monica Rambeau universe that she's stuck in right now. And you probably have, early theory here, Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom pulling the strings, orchestrating things from behind the scenes, making sure that they fight each other, because even though he is trying to save the multiverse, like he views himself as a hero, trying to rescue the multiverse from being completely destroyed.
New mask. Same task.
Part of his plan probably involves the destruction of both universes, so he wants both universes to be destroyed ultimately. There's also the whole concept of anchor beings that they introduced during Deadpool and Wolverine, and the way that Molecule Man figures into the Time Runs Out in Secret Wars storyline that they're adapting. In the comics, Doctor Doom learns that if they kill Molecule Man in each different universe, it'll wind up destroying those universes, which is basically what they did during Deadpool and Wolverine with anchor beings. Sean Levy said that the whole anchor beings idea was Kevin Feige's, so he might have been using that as a way to set up what was happening during Doomsday in Secret Wars. Another big early theory, this is a common one, is that Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom will try to show up in the MCU and kill the MCU anchor being, along with the anchor being of this X-Men universe too. But I think one of the reasons why they didn't reveal Monica or Maria Rambeau during Chair Watch here is to avoid completely giving away exactly which universe these X-Men come from. But like I said, I think that they'll just use the universe that Monica Rambeau is stuck in right now, just because that makes sense on a narrative level. And for those of you asking, I do think that this X-Men team is meant to be a completely different X-Men team than the one from the actual original X-Men movies. Like, it's not the exact same team, all because that's the universe that Deadpool and Wolverine and X-23 are currently in. They're in the main X-Men universe. Now, it is possible that they could just say that that is the X-Men universe that Monica Rambeau got stuck in, and she's just off in upstate New York in the X-Mansion, while Deadpool and Wolverine are in that version of New York City. The way they've talked about Deadpool and Wolverine particularly is that they're not meant to be really big characters in the movie, just cameos, and they'll be bigger characters during Secret Wars. But another thing I think they're going to play on is the idea, the Wolverine, remember, he comes from a universe where his X-Men team is dead in present day. That's his big trauma that he got over during the movie, is his role in their death, that he felt responsible for their death because he wasn't there to help them. What I think they'll do is that you have this whole Avengers versus X-Men going on, like the main part of the plot with Doctor Doom trying to pull the strings, orchestrating the destruction of both universes. And on the side, you'll just have Channing Tatum's Gambit, who they revealed will probably just be part of this X-Men team. Like, this team will be his team.
They call me the Gambit.
Do they? Are you sure you didn't just really want them to, but it never quite worked out?
Deadpool and Wolverine will eventually show up, and then Wolverine will see his team is alive, even though technically it's not his team, they're from another universe. Imagine how that's going to impact him, how that's going to affect him. Like, it's just going to blow him away that they're all still alive, even though technically they aren't his X-Men. Next real big question, though, is what happened to this X-Men team's version of Wolverine if they're just basically going to slot in the new Hugh Jackman Wolverine from a completely different universe? Maybe they'll just say that their Wolverine died at some point in the past. Basically, you see the idea is that eventually by the end of Avengers Doomsday, Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom will be victorious, successful in becoming God Emperor Doom. He'll combine all the fragments of the remaining universes into a version of Battleworld, or he'll wind up bringing everybody to the Void, and they'll use that as a version of Battleworld, where you wind up with some of the X-Men and a couple of the MCU characters surviving the events of Doomsday, like big body count. Most people from the movie wind up dying, the same way they did during Infinity War. But a couple survive into Secret Wars, and they form the Multiverse Avengers team that stops God Emperor Doom and repairs the multiverse. But another big idea is that they are saving a lot of characters for Secret Wars, because just like Infinity War and just like Avengers Doomsday, and this also gets back to the idea like why they didn't reveal every single original X-Man from the original X-Men movies, is they want the characters and the cast for both of the different Avengers movies, Secret Wars and Doomsday, to be different, to feel different. This is why I think when we get to Secret Wars eventually, you'll have a hodgepodge X-Men team forming with some of the Avengers into a larger Avengers multiverse team, and you'll have a combination of classic X-Men actors with first-class era X-Men actors and some MCU X-Men together, along with some other people like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man. I've already done a much bigger video about why Spider-Man himself, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, was not mentioned during Chairwatch or the other versions of Spider-Man, mostly because they're saving a lot of that for Secret Wars, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man won't be quite as big of a character during Doomsday because Spider-Man 4, Brand New Day, which they just announced, takes place right after Doomsday and is supposed to happen during the events of Doomsday.
I give that a minute, bud.
So there's a lot of stuff happening with a lot of different characters all at the same time, and they're trying to service as many of the character arcs as possible, which is why they can't just put every single character in Doomsday. But everyone asking what's going to happen with Phoenix, is she going to show up during the movie? What about Storm? What about Rogue, Iceman, Colossus, Kitty Pryde, the other really big X-Men characters from those classic movies, even some of the big first-class era younger versions of the characters? Most of the ones that don't wind up in Doomsday, I think will wind up in Secret Wars in some way. There might be like one or two actors that don't come back for whatever reason, but I think the only reason that that would happen, potentially, is just because of contract disputes or pay disputes. It's always possible, like this is Hollywood, so stuff like that does happen all the time. But I do think that like the real big ones that you're really hoping to see will show up in at least one of the next Avengers movies. Generally, Secret Wars is meant to be Kevin Feige's Avengers Endgame for a lot of these classic era actors, not just the X-Men, but like other Fox Marvel actors, people that didn't get their own version of Avengers Endgame back in the day before the MCU came along. All before he reboots X-Men inside the MCU with a younger version of the cast, the younger actors. We know we're getting that movie sometime in 2028, I think at this point, or sometime right after Secret Wars. But everyone post all your predictions in the comments below. I'll do more chair watch videos as we get more big reveals, we learn more about the characters, and they do more actual chair watch videos later this year. Expecting at least one more chair watch type of video, like they won't duplicate the stunt, but they'll do something similar where they announce a couple more actors later in the year. Marvel even started releasing Thunderbolts promos making fun of the chair watch videos, so the minute that they start to make fun of themselves in other promos, you know that it's an old bit. Everybody click here for that video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for my full Avengers Doomsday trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.